Ronald Bogaerds is the global head of business development of Chargebee, and he will talk about the 5 characteristics of efficient revenue teams. Please welcome Ronald. Now it's time for the song.
Yeah, where's my song?
Was this not your song?
No,
it was not the song.
But I can tell about it.
I wanted to ask you this: what the story of the song was, but it wasn't. But what was going to be your song?
My song. So I shared a song from Tupac. I don't know if you know it. Changes, and it was released in 1998, and that was exactly the year that I started in sales. So, but probably people will know that song. I don't know if it's here.
Can we do the song like quickly? Do we have it?
Yeah, we can skip it. We can just get
so
started.
Whoever wants to know about Ronald's song, please catch him afterwards, and he can play it to you on the phone or so. You can go like, you know.
Yeah, that's
You can still play it for people.
Fine.
Okay, then Ronald, I'm going to pass you the clicker.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. One more round of applause for Ronald, please.
So let me check how this works. All right. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm going to talk a little bit about the 5 characteristics of efficient revenue teams. But before I start with the 5 characteristics, I want to take you a little bit on a journey. I wrote a book as well, but I'm not going to sell it to you. And the interesting thing is that I started in SaaS sales in 2021. And my book was published in 2020, just before COVID. And in 1998, and this was the release album date of the greatest hits of Tupac, I started in sales. And the interesting thing is that back then, you didn't have Google, you didn't have internet, you didn't have YouTube. So in order to become better in sales, you just needed to go to the library, which I did. And the first book that I read was from Zig Ziglar, Secrets of Closing the Sale. Sounds familiar? And from that moment on, I thought, okay, I need to write a book myself. So it took me 18 years from that moment to write a book. And when I talk to some of my colleagues within Chargebee, they often ask me, Ronald, why don't you get your book translated? And I said, I won't. And the reason because of that is that I'm really looking forward to write a new book, because a lot of stuff in my book is actually outdated. It was before COVID, it was before Zoom, it was before Google Meet, it was before Teams, and it was before everything what I got to know about selling in the SaaS world. So my book was more about always be closing, the AIDA model. Probably you know everything about it. And then I entered Chargebee. And the interesting thing about me starting at Chargebee is that I wanted to implement the old sales models, and I saw it didn't work. And there were people within Chargebee that were actually better in sales than I was. So I started in a sales enablement role, and instead of telling people how to sell, I started using other people to facilitate sessions and to help other people to be better at sales. And the interesting thing, probably you remember it, and 2021, Chargebee was a unicorn. We just got 250 million in funding from Sequoia Capital. And there were a lot of people hired. We needed to open new markets. We needed to onboard a lot of new people. And we had high revenue targets to achieve. And then the economics changed. And it became harder and harder to make sales. It became harder to hit quota. And I was still in enablement, and it was the first time in my career that I was actually helping salespeople, but we didn't really grow in sales. Obviously, we are an ARR company, and happily we have good customer success, and we still grow year over year. But there was a lot of learnings for me, specifically in that year, because we wanted to help the salespeople to become better at what they do, but it didn't work out. And then end of 2022, we had a layoff round within Chargebee, and we needed to let go a lot of people. But the targets were still the same. So what we needed to do, needed to do more with less. And we needed to become more efficient as a team. And the question is, what do you do if you have lower budgets? You just need to become more efficient. And this is where we're going to talk about today. The 5 characteristics of efficient revenue teams. But let's look at the definition first. Because in order to be more efficient, you need to do more with less. And you still have a revenue target, but you have limited resources to work with. And at the other hand, when you look at revenue teams, we're not talking about sales teams only or marketing teams only, but customer success is involved, marketing is involved, business development is involved. And the first topic what I want to speak with you about is the adaptability and initiative, what is super important. Because my team, my global team, I have teams in the US, in India, and in EMEA as well. My team was almost cut in half. But the targets didn't change. So what we were expecting from the people in my team is to basically do double their work. So a lot of people in my team needed to step up to do extra work. Some of the leads, they took the management positions. But I think for you as well, I think this is relevant for most companies in SaaS that has to do with, a situation like where we have been in. Are you really willing to take that extra step? Because it's also an opportunity for you to show within the organization what you are capable of. There's a lot of new things what you can learn. For me, for example, I was part of the sales team and part of the revenue org. And because of the transition from me heading into business development, I also transitioned to the marketing team. And that was also an opportunity for me to learn more about marketing, but also to have more influence on lead generation in general. And if you look at the other teams, because I started in sales enablement within Chargebee, and I was involved in a lot of stuff. I was working with AEs, I was working with CSMs, I was working with customer success. Sorry, that's the same thing. And I was working with solution consultants. And I think the change that we have made internally is instead of having the focus on the specific silos, like we have a sales team, we have a marketing team, we have a customer success or a solution consulting team, we started thinking about, since the teams are smaller at the moment, we should align and collaborate in a better way. And that happened. So instead of having weekly meetings with sales only, we started to think about, okay, why don't we have this weekly session with all of the teams together? So on a Monday morning, we can talk more about successes that we have achieved all together. And this is what happens in a lot of sales organizations, is that usually or typically we celebrate successes of sales. But what about the involvement of solution consultants? And what about the involvement of marketing in general? And I think moving forward, this alignment is going to more and more important for all of us. What I also have learned, specifically when I was in enablement, the interesting part is that there has been a lot of changes when it comes to technology. I probably don't have to explain you about the value of AI, of creating the best prompts in order to create the best messages. But there is also a lot of other technology what is going to help you. So one of the things that I discovered watching for example, at Gong or Chorus. There's a lot of conversation intelligence tools out there that will help you to improve results. And the one thing what I did, I went to my manager, I said, hey, I've looked at this conversation intelligence tool. Could you, can we maybe get some budget for that? Or could we explore the possibilities of that? But there was no budget for it. So what I did, I started exploring in our existing tech stack and think about, okay, what kind of tooling do we already have? Because I knew we had we were already recording all the sessions, but I didn't know that the conversation intelligence capabilities were in there as well. And talking about conversation intelligence, it's taking all your recordings, get that transcripted into data, and based on this data, you are able to take the analytics out of it. And the interesting part of that is that one of the sales managers in the US reached out to me and said, hey, Ronald, I have this AE, and I think she's not asking enough questions, and that's the reason why she's not hitting quota. And I looked into the conversation intelligence tool, and I looked at her interactivity number, and she was actually asking enough questions. She was, I think, asking more questions than the average of her team. So I went back to him, and I said to him, asking questions is not a problem, but it's more like a specific part in her conversations that she is lacking. It was a part of the sales methodology that she was not utilizing in her conversation. And the interesting part of it, this was specifically about gap selling. I don't know if you're familiar with that, talking about the current state of the business. So I was, as a coach, able to train her on that specific topic, and she became one of the best AEs of that team. And this shows me that embracing data and technology is super important for all of us, specifically if we have to do more with less. The other thing, what was interesting, Catherine and I just had a conversation about it, the importance of account-based marketing, for example. Since we are working more closely with our teams together, from a business development perspective, I have much more influence in the results in lead generation in general. And the interesting part of is the first decision what I made when I moved into the global business development role is that I said, I don't want to do any cold prospecting anymore. Can you imagine? The majority of the salespeople are just looking into lists and pulling accounts out there and just going after it. And I thought, hey, but there's so much data already out there. And this is also the recommendation what I would give to you is look at your existing tech stack, look at the existing data, and how can you utilize the existing data to make more, to become more efficient and to be able to provide better quality leads to your sales teams. And recently we also started with intent. From a marketing perspective, it's super interesting to look into the dark funnel because it's only 3% of your customers that's actually signing up through your website. 97% is out there and they show behavior, but how are you able to find them? So what I would recommend is look into intent tools as well. LinkedIn Navigator has it, and you can use it in the beta version. You have Zoom Info, and there's a lot of tools out there. And reach out to me if you have any questions about that in the future. So definitely look into your existing tech stack. You do not always have to buy new software to improve your result and to become more efficient. The fifth point, what I wanted to share with you is the person maybe sitting next to you. I think if you're working with smaller cohorts in smaller teams, I think it's super important to value the people around you because at the end of the day, you're still in the same team, you're serving the same goal, and it's super important that you value each other for the things that you are doing. And Last week I was in Dublin. I was at a trade show there, and one of our good performing AEs from the European market was with me on the breakfast table, and he said, I had a nightmare. And I said to him, oh, tell me about it. Yeah, I had a nightmare about our solution consultant leaving the organization. You know what I said to him? Text him right now. Tell him that you don't want him to leave. Tell him that you value him, that you are happy with him. And this is what I wanted to share with you. Value the people around you. You're in the same team. Give each other credits for what they do. And at the end of the day, you're working towards the same goal. So, yeah, I only have 1.5 minutes left. I know there's a lot of salespeople here in this room. I know it's still Q4. I wish you all the best for hitting your quota this quarter. For all the sales leaders out here, prepare yourself for change. Look into the 5 characteristics of making your revenue teams more efficient. Thanks all of you, and I hope you have a great day.